So we have about an hour, and I've got a lot of questions, and I'm hoping we have time at the end for some questions from the audience as well. So first of all, I'll start with the really big one. There's a unique perspective that you can bring to this conversation that none of our other panelists, which is the experience of Palestinian citizens of Israel post-October 7th. I'd like to ask you a very open-ended question and answer it however you like. What is the need of the Palestinian community in Israel? What don't we, as in here in the Jewish diaspora, what don't we know that we should know about that experience? And I know you referred to the recent, to the work of the Abraham Initiatives and the recent poll that you conducted, and you started off with that. I'd love for you to elaborate more on that question.
So, thank you very much, and thank you for staying with me here to listen to me. It means that you were interested in the things that I brought in the panel. So, thank you very much. I want to say something as like being Palestinian citizen of the state of Israel after October 7th. And I represent only myself, okay? So, but I think that I bring a picture of most of, sometimes I say Arabs, sometimes I say Palestinians, is the same for me, so for comfortable reasons. So, I think that the Arab community in Israel conducted Hamas attack against civilians in Israel, and they didn't support this activity, and they were even disappointed by this because Palestinians for years they support the struggle of the Palestinians for the establishment of their independent state, and but this is not the way that we want to the Palestinians for their rights. So and as you know, also Hamas kidnapped also Palestinians from Israel and killed. One of my family relatives, Rawshi, he was an ambulance driver. He also was killed. My mother is Rawshi, and so it means that the feeling was that we are in the same, in the same area. We were attacked by by Hamas. So people didn't support. But in the Israeli side, the moment that this happened, we became to be the enemies. We are part of them. And for years, we are the citizens of the state of Israel. We are the good partners. We are colleagues. We are neighbors. But after these events, we started to be the enemies, and we had to be checked, by the government and by the police, and also by other people. So this situation brought a lot of tension between the two groups. Me personally, for a few days, even more than for a few weeks, I stopped going out to public spaces. I don't know if it was real threatening, but my internal feeling was that I want to avoid being outside. And not because the rockets from I live in Haifa, and Haifa was under attack, but it's because the tension. I was afraid to go to a coffee shop, and then the people who serve me will know that I'm an Arab. I thought for myself, maybe they will stop serving me, maybe they will kick me out of the coffee shop. I didn't hear about any kind of this actions or incidents in Israel, but it was like internal feeling as someone who just lived in this situation. I stopped taking the train because the train was full of soldiers with their big weapons, my feet are very, very high, just like very, very, very long. Just I'm afraid. I still sometimes afraid to go to the public area spaces because of the number of weapons that you see in the public spaces. And I start speaking Arabic
I might text, my children, I might text my colleagues, but I don't speak Arabic. I still don't speak Arabic in public spaces because you'll never know. There are so many extreme people that might decide that they want to attack or they're angry for something that they heard in the news, and I'm going to be the victim. So I avoid being in this kind of situation. So this is my personal experience. But for me, as a director of a shared organization, our team is 50% Arabs and 50% Jews. We are like in Israel. Our team in Israel is 22 workers, and we have two team members that they have families in Gaza. One of our team members lost 13 family members from her family in Gaza. At one day, one night, and the other one, Thabit, also he has a big family that he was just going with the list, just mentioning who just passed away from his family and who was injured, and he was following while they were moving from Deir al-Bala to Jabalia, from Jabalia to, and this is the situation that we like. At the same time, one of our team members, she's a Jewish guy. She's amazing. She's an amazing partner. She has 4 children in the army, and one of her sons was injured in a tank, was burned in a tank in Gaza at the beginning of the war. And one of our workers, she had 2, she's also Jewish from Tel Aviv, 2 kids, 2 small kids. And her husband was in the army, so she was like a single mother dealing with. Under the attack in Tel Aviv, she didn't have a safe room at her home. So each night that she was attacked, she should take her 2 kids to go to the shelter in the building. And the only thing that she was thinking about was these mothers, that they were kidnapped, holding their kids, trying to secure them, and she was just traumatized in a way that she couldn't function for weeks. And this is the situation. And as a director of a shared organization, I had to give support to this and this and this. And not only me, and also my partner, Amnon Be'eri, he's like my co-director of the organization, and all the team. You should see a woman that lost 13 family members supporting a woman that her son was injured in Gaza, and we led a process in the team, asking people to share with their feelings, with their thoughts for a long time. It wasn't only once, one meeting, a few meetings with the team, and people were sharing and showing empathy to the pain of the others. And so for me, if you ask me, the fundamental basic of building shared society and building, an equal democratic space starts from people who care about each other. I know that people didn't choose sometimes to do what they're doing. And one of my best friends, she used to have 2 daughters in Gaza and her son-in-law. And the only thing that I thought about her and her children, I just worried. I couldn't sleep at night because I used to put my phone next to my bed because I was waiting. I didn't want to wait for this, but was I afraid? I worried. I used to call her every day, text her, asking her, "Are the kids all right?" And she was saying, "Yes, they are." And sometimes she said, "1 is all right, 2 not." So this is a situation that we do care about each other, and this is instead of, we're living in a country, instead of taking all this positive feeling and actions and just to build in it the democratic state, the democratic process of the state of Israel. The state is trying to destroy it. Some ministers, they were encouraging people just to attack, encouraging the Jewish people to attack the Arabs, take care of them. They're going to do this, they're going to do that, and we are ensuring the people in the ground that we are refusing to be enemies. I don't know if you are familiar with Standing Together. Yeah. Standing Together, one of their slogans Arabs and I see this. Arabs and Jews. I was one of the founders of Standing Together, and one of our slogans is that Arabs and Jews are refusing to be animals.
Thank you. I'm fascinated. I'm fascinated by the processes that you mentioned. You know, for shared society organizations that are, you know, Sikui, your organization, there are a number of them standing together. The processes that they have to be able to go through to be able to work together in the face of the kind of trauma that you just described. And I'm wondering, like, is there a lesson for the broader society that can somehow be sort of transferred? I know this isn't in the script, but I was just curious to see if you had any further, reflections.
I think that there are a few lessons. I will take you to the emergency rooms in the hospitals in Israel and think about, you know, the truth. The mixed truth. More than around 30% of the physicians in Israel are Arabs. And more than 40%, even around 50% of the nurses are Arab. And they're working together in emergency room, you know, treating soldiers, people who were injured in Gaza, people who were injured from like an attack in Jerusalem and in Haifa, and you know, it's like, you know, people, what I'm trying to say that people know how to do together, how to hold together an emergency situation. And the fact that Arabs and Jews, you know, were together after October 7, and they didn't, you know, implement the dream of Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, and they didn't kill each other in the streets, and they were responsible enough to understand that, like, it's our responsibility to do it together, and we are going to do it together. And I really want to mention two main players. One of them is the civil society organization, and not only shared society organization. Most of the civil society organization, they work together in order to handle this situation, and also the mayors. Mayors of local authorities in Israel were very involved with the civil society organization for the first time. You know, sometimes mayors, they're very concerned about their local localities, about their cities and towns and Moshavim, and don't know why. They're busy with giving services, you know, they're very pragmatic, and they're taking care of their own space. But in this case, they just realized that the government doesn't care for them, and the government is not going to support them, and the government is not going to bring security to their cities if something would happen between Arabs and Jews on the ground. So where they were also the first to cooperate with the organization, calling people for peace, to understand that this is a hard situation for both sides. And I can mention that, I can say that some of them, they were extremely right, and they changed their discourse, calling, you know, their residents. I can mention here because it was like published in the media, like the mayor of Lod. He in May 2021, he called settlers to come to Lod and to protect and to attack Arabs of his city. But after October 7th, he was the first to call, we are brothers, we are cousins, we are going to do it together. It's our responsibility. Don't rely on the government. They're not going to solve the problem. We are going to do it by ourselves. And this is what means that we were fighting for the general narrative. We changed together with the mayors, with the activists in the ground, with the civil society organization. We really changed the discourse in Israel. And people now are so proud about their ability to do it together. And this is something that we can learn for the future, not only Iraqis in Israel. We can learn in the future that if we can do it together inside Israel, we can do it together also with Palestinians in Gaza and also in the West Bank. But you need to have the right will and the right action.
Thank you. So I just briefly on that note, a few weeks ago I was in Israel for the New Israel Fund, the board meeting, and we visited in Tel Aviv an organization called IDEA. I don't know if you're familiar with them. So they do all kinds of training. What they do is they identify key groups in society that, to come together to talk about these issues, to, foster greater cooperation and greater activism, depending on. Anyway, one of the people who spoke to us was actually a mayor whose name, I forget what town it was, some small town. He said, being a mayor is the loneliest job in Israel. And maybe you're familiar with this as well. You're responsible for the welfare of your community. There's all this traumatic stuff going on. You have all these different sort of segments of the community that you have to take care of. And what struck me from what you're saying is, in addition to what you said, you need to sort of pull together all of these strands. And that's what civil society is, especially in Israel, is so good at. Thank you. So I have another question. You've been very active in social change and social activism for a very long time, both from inside the political system in municipal government, and also as within civil society, like for example, your work with Abraham initiatives and other things. What's the difference between these two forms of change making? Do you think one is more likely to have success than the other? How, coming from both sides, how do you bring them together to actually create change?
I think that the most important thing is to know how to work together. Now, before I became to be a city councillor, I was very active in the city of Haifa. And I remember that I used to work with city councillors. If you wanted something from the mayor, and he didn't respond to me, I used to call, the councillors and just to convince them to work with us. And one of them was very, very active, and she just very cooperative. And she used to arrange meetings for me with the mayor, for me and the active group. And so sometimes when you know how to work together, and not only at the local level, also on the national level, we do a lot of work with Knesset members, and we do a lot of work with the ministries. We used to do, we cannot do now for this performance with the ministries, but we do with the Knesset member, and mainly from the opposition. So there are different tools when you work inside, when you work within the system. And I want to bring from my own experience being, I used to be a social worker years ago, and I used to work inside the municipality, and then I was a city councillor. It's different. When I'm outside, I feel, more free to say and to act and to do things. And when I was in the city council, I was part of the coalition. And sometimes I had to vote for things that I didn't really agree, but I have just to vote in the coalition. And this is part of, being part of the power, and the authority. When the mayor is leading the coalition, she has her program, she has her attitude, her view, her values. And when I took upon myself to be her partner, sometimes I try to influence, but sometimes I have to vote. And sometimes I had not to come to the meeting because I didn't want to vote for her. And I didn't want to get into conflict. So for people who know how to do that, they can do that. They can compromise and negotiate. I felt when I went to the municipality that I'm more radical and activist than being a part of a coalition. And to go to a local, be a city councillor and to sit in the opposition is like doing nothing. Fighting and crying for 5 years without achieving anything. So I decided that it will be, for me, I can bring more impact if I work with the civil society in Pakistan. We work together and we do a lot of work with local authorities, especially with me.
Thank you. So I want to switch gears and ask a question about your feminism, because you were one of the early founders of the feminist movement, the Arab feminist movement in Israel. How does feminism inform or play into your broader activism? And I'm curious, like, are there ever any conflicts between your feminist activism and your work with the broader Palestinian community? Maybe you could just talk about the big issues facing the women's movement in Israel, both Palestinian and Jewish, and how and to what extent do you work together?
Yeah, wow, great. You're taking me back. Not 30, maybe less than 30 years ago. Actually, I like this story from my life, and I'm very happy when I speak about it. You know, I think I was very, very young when I joined the feminist movement, the Jewish movement. I was a student in the University of Haifa, and I was a student of social work, the social work department, and I met students from the university. She started to tell me about a movie that they watched today about women being physically attacked, sexually attacked. And she told me, okay, if you go to the street and you see trees, don't walk beside the trees, just walk in the middle of the street, because this is how that you can secure yourself, that no one will attack you. This was the first time of my life. I was 19 years old. I started to think about people who would like to attack me, in the street. And I decided, why should I live like this? I just like, it's like wake-up call for me. And I started to think, because I was like, started to think, what should I do with this? I started to search, and I found a group of women who were like active in improving the status of women in the state of Israel. They used to have three organizations. One of them called a Woman to Woman, it's a feminist organization, very feminist organization in Israel, and very radical, and one of the most organizations that I love. And then I found home there, and I started to be active in the rape crisis center to support women who suffer from sexual violence. And then I started to lead another organization that supported women who suffered from domestic violence. And what was very unique in this movement, that we were working together, Arabs and Jews, our women and Jews together. We were planning together and supporting each other. I learned a lot from my Jewish colleagues. We were very young, the Brazilian group that we joined the US school, and it was the first time that we started to join, and our partners, they were older than us, and they taught us a lot. I learned a lot from my Jewish partners, and I got a lot of support from them. And then I started to work in the Arab community. I remember myself, 19 years old, maybe 42 kilos, going around and educating about the status of women, fighting with everyone that I found. I felt free to say whatever I want. I don't know how, when I get the courage to say all the things that I dream. I won't do it today, because sometimes there are two kinds of feeling. Sometimes you just close your eyes and you say that in Arabic you say it's nothing the price, I don't care. And sometimes you sit with yourself and you think about, now I'm an organization consultant. When like an activist, you come to me and then you ask me questions. Okay, what is your vision? What do you want to achieve? How much energy do you have? What are your partners? Are you sure that what is your theory of change? So they will decide, okay, I'm not going to do that. Thank you very much. I'm going back home. I'm not going to succeed to do this. But for me, it was like the opposite. Me with other friends, and we started to demonstrate against, domestic violence, sexual abuse. I think I was one of the first, people in the Arab society who came to school and started to think about, sexual harassment in the families. And people were like, oh, your father could attack a child. Yes, father could attack a child. They don't attack me because I was English.
So sometimes in order for a change, we need really to be to dare to do things, to change things. And I think that we are the feminist movement, the first activists. He brought a lot of change to the Arab society, and you can see today very clearly the number of students increase, in very in a huge way. But when we started to be activists, we were talking about 300 students in the universities, and now we are talking about through thousands, like 40,000 Arab students now in the universities. In Israel, 20,000 studying abroad, while around between 60 to 70% of them are women. We were talking about 10% of women that are working outside of their houses. Now we are talking about 50% of the Arab women are working outside their houses. And I think that this number is going to increase. We are talking about women that are occupying, positions in the hospitals, in the government, and they're engineers, they're doctors, they're doing all kinds of work that we couldn't dream about it in the past. And I'm so happy for this. But the challenge that I like two main things, being a part of the feminist movement. The feminist movement in Israel, for me, it was one of the first mixed organizations that I established. I didn't start by myself, we established together. But I believe I learned from the feminist movement what they said on the panel, that you cannot divide the struggle. You cannot struggle for Jewish women's rights without ensuring that the Arab women will get their rights. And in the feminist movement, I learned to combine between women's rights and political rights. I don't know if you know this term in the feminist movement that personal is political. Yeah. So I grew up in this, the radical thinking. I learned radical thinking in the feminist movement, and I learned that it's not personal, it's political. And in order to change the situation in Israel, we need to re-examine the political, economic, and social structures that ensure inequality in Israel, not only for women, and also for Palestinians, and be connected between these to the occupation. And we built not only the feminist movement to strike for women's rights, but we also created the political feminist movement in the political organization. We called it the Coalition of Women Against War and Occupation. And we just built very, very united. And I think that we need to rearrange our forces in order to face the situation that we have today in Israel.
Thank you. Okay, so I want to switch gears now and ask about something that both you and Ron began to talk about, which was looking back to May 2021 and the violence that took place in the mixed cities, and how remarkable it was that now, after October 7th, with the potential for even greater violence and fear and hatred, that organizations like yours, the Abraham Initiative and others, were able to avoid having that happen. We're able to actually build coalitions to counter those tendencies. So if you could talk about that a little bit. And I just want to put in a plug for New Israel Fund of Canada, who are actually this year direct supporters of some of this work that the Abraham Initiatives are doing. So thank you to whoever our donors are out there. It's really see the fruits of our efforts.
Okay, I will make like a long story short, but in May 2021, I don't know if you're familiar with something, but in May 2021, it was Ramadan, just like now, Ramadan, the fasting month.
So
Ramadan.
Yeah. No.
No, yeah, it's just like now. So Ramadan for Muslims, it's not only to fast, it's also to practice like religious actions and to pray. And they, inside in Palestine, the West Bank and inside Israel, it's very important for them to go to pray in Al-Aqsa Mosque. Al-Aqsa is in Jerusalem. So, hundreds of thousands of people go to pray each night, and mainly in Friday prayer. And the Israeli government, because they are afraid of, escalation and, so many Palestinians are coming, and also Palestinians from the West Bank. Palestinians from the West Bank get special permit to get into Israel during Ramadan to pray. If you are older than 50, if you are younger than 10 years, you are allowed to come and pray. So hundreds of thousands, 300 buses are driving around Jerusalem, going to the hills, and they want to pray there. So the government put a lot of obstacles, and conditions. You can come, you cannot come, you can come, you cannot come, and sometimes they give, permission, and then they don't allow you to get into Jerusalem. They put checkpoints, and they don't allow buses to take into Jerusalem. And one of the nights, a clash was happening between the soldiers and the police. I don't know if they were soldiers or police, but this is Mishmar Gvul. It's between the border guards. Yeah, border guards. I don't know if they belong to police or they belong, to the army. Really, I need to check it. Sorry, that I don't have this information. And then, the prayers wanted to push to enter into the mosque, and they just pushed them back, and clashes happened there, and the police beat the prayers, also from inside Israel and also from the East Jerusalem. And people started to protest in different places in our society against having the police attacking, the prayers. And then huge demonstrations started to happen, mainly in cities. And the police, as I told you, the panic wasn't left behind. They attacked, the demonstrators. And each time when they arrest people will demonstrate against the arrestment. And when they attack people will demonstrate again because of police attack. So this is a circle that will never end. But what was unique for this kind of demonstrations, that a group, and not only the police was attacking the demonstrators, a group of extreme right-wing Jewish groups, mainly from the settlements, started to come from the West Bank and to attack also, to demonstrate, and clashes happening between Jews and Arabs. And the Arabs and Jews started to burn cars and businesses and throw stones on the police started to arrest more and more. And the Arab demonstrators were more angry and started to burn businesses of Jewish people and to attack their cars. And 2 persons were killed, 1 Arab and 1 Jew in Lut. There's a movie about this. You are interested in and just watching your events. And Arab family was attacked, and Arab taxi driver was attacked in Ramat or one of the cities in the center, and also in Akko. So it was like a huge crisis between Arabs and Jews for the first time between people. I'm used to the side that the police might attack the people. But to have, groups of Arabs and Jews are walking around tonight looking for someone to kill and to attack, it was like, for me, it's a huge crisis. And as an activist, because as I told you, I believe in people. I think that our problem is with the government and with the policy, not with the government, with the policy of the government. So this what's happened between the groups. And I was the deputy mayor at that time in Haifa, and I decided with a group of activists, I just went to the street, and then I found my friends. I always, when I go to the streets, I find my friends from the political movement and also from the feminist movement. And we were just going around for 10 days, day and night, I remember myself just speaking with the police, avoiding violence, I used just to go to the policemen and just take them aside and tell them, guys, this is not the way, we are provocating. We, the activists, are going to take care that the demonstration will stay silent and safe. Please give us, the opportunity. And I remember one of the nights, there was a lot of neighborhood in Haifa called by Snatch, very old neighborhood. And they just, the extreme groups from the Jewish side, they published in the media, they are coming today to Wadi Snaf to attack, the people in Wadi Snaf. And I went to Wadi Snaf and I found more than 400, young people standing there, waiting for them. We were like, we will save our neighborhood. And then suddenly a car, like a Toyota, great Toyota, came into the crowd, and four, people with masks, they came out, started to beat the people from around, Jewish people actually. And we were activists, we just catch them, put them back into the car, and we told them, if you want to die, you could stay here. You are here, surrounded by 400 people, and you are only 4. And we just pushed them back in the car, and we just get them out of the neighborhood, and then we just ensure that the neighborhood is going to be safe. And then the police came and they asked the police forces to leave because they are not wanted there. This is not the way we are taking care of the demonstrators. And we did this in different neighborhoods for 10 days. So I remember myself speaking with a police officer, all night, asking him, just please let us handle the situation. This is going to be the best way. And the fact that there was a deputy mayor, they said to me, I said, I'm not deputy mayor, okay, so what? But I remember myself just convincing them. And one day, Amir, he was the officer, he promised me that, okay, if you are taking care for this, so I'm leaving. So I left for 10 minutes, and then he came back and started just to throw this stuff. Not in a secret response, the sound and the smoke, tear gas, and then I came to Amir and I remember it was one broken night. After everything that was finished, I said, Amir, he talks to me. And he said, I gave you 10 minutes. Said, what can I do with 10 minutes? Just like that. So this was the dynamic between us. But it was like very risky, but at the same time, I knew that they are not going to hurt the people. They will try to show the people that we are here, we have the power to do whatever we want, but I could say that the involvement of the activists in the ground will change, the attitude of the police. And, a few months after, Roger Science is a researcher from the University of Haifa, and she's a friend of mine. She came to me and she said, Shahira, I want to conduct the research about what's happened in the city of Haifa to compare it with other cities such like Lod and Akko, that huge crisis happened there. What's happened in Haifa? That Haifa has administration, but it could be safe. So she interviewed 60 people, and she learned that there is a model. We created a model by just going around and working with the mayor, working with the police. And she said that if you have, in emergency time, in crisis time, you need to have 3 main things. First of all, you need to have the activists in the ground, and who's working together. And they will know what to do in the different, neighborhoods. They need to work with the municipality and with the mayor. They need to inform them about any activity in the ground, and she needs to work with the police. So this is the model of Haifa. And we decided, wow, with great model, for the state of Israel, we are full of emergency. So we need to encourage local authorities to adapt the model. And we started just to, our organization, was supported really to do this research. And we started to speak with mayors to adapt the model. Yeah, we were thinking, we have that. And then when October 7th happened, we said, this is time to implement a model. So we ran initiatives with 2 other organizations. We call it the Civic Center, the Justice Center, and Givat, so she can go familiar on Givat. Yeah, okay. We came to a group of donors and we stayed, even by myself again, just saying, I thought that if you think that you cannot avoid violence and prevent violence, then you are wrong. Let's try this model. Maybe if you implement these steps, we can ensure safety. So the organization and also with other civil society organizations, we started to implement the model in 12 different places. We hired local coordinators that they created, them like groups. They work with the mayor work with the police. We just in the national level, we created the different atmosphere. In each city, there were a group of people. In Tel Aviv, there were 3,000 people that they were active. In Haifa, there were 300 people that were active. In Akko, in Karmiel, in North Galil, and Lud, Ramli, they're still active, the group that we created that and also Spanka. So yeah, this is. So if you know how to do the work, if you have the right model, the right organization, the right supporters, actually, Forty Foundation immediately supported the coalition, started to support all the activities of the emergency that were integrated by the Religious Society Organization. So this was a cooperation not only with the organization, but a cooperation also with the foundation and the international schools.
So that's incredibly, inspiring, particularly in these very, very polarized times, to find models, ways of working together, and then, be able to expand them from the local to the national level. So I just give one more example for these activists. Sometimes, they were solving small conflicts in the area, and this is how they escalate. So I'll give you an example. One of the things, extreme groups when you put in Facebook in the media, we say that, there are throwing stones on a Jewish neighborhood in Herzl Street in Haifa. So if you want to protect your neighborhood, you should go and attack them back. So these groups used to go to Herzl Street and to say that it's fake news. And then they ask the mayor to say that it's fake, and then the administrator would say it's fake, and then also they would publish that it's fake news. No one is throwing stones, no one is embarrassed that they would say it's fake. You should keep calm, it's fake news, and they did it in a daily basis. Not only this, they were just they told me one of the stories that one person, he had a small store that she was putting, the Turkish flag, because he used to bring, things from Turkey and sell it. And people started to think that he supports Turkey because Turkey is against Israel. Then they came to him and asked him. He said, "No, I have this flag for years." And then they asked him, "Do you mind just let me put this for a while because people think that you're advocating them?" And he said, "Of course I will." So sometimes it's just sort of small conflicts in a way that really they just separate, the city from larger conflict. Yeah. So I just have one last question, and then I'll be doing some time for questions from the audience. So quickly, you touched on this earlier, and this is what do you say to Canadians? The Jewish diaspora in Canada, or just Canadians more broadly, about what we can do, inspired by your activism, the activism of civil society in Israel, Palestinian, Jewish, to try and change the situation.
Yeah, as I said in the panel also, that I learned a lot about the diaspora role, because I'm part of this important initiative called the London Initiative. The London Initiative is like a new form that was founded by Mick Davis and Michael Fetchker. They decided that they would like to build coalition of people from the diaspora, Jews from the diaspora, and people from Israel, in order to bring a kind of impact with the situation. So I learned a lot about the role of diaspora in the world, about how diasporas really pushed for solving conflicts. I know that Jewish diaspora, they do care about Israel and do it, and it's an important place for you. And it's a safe home, okay, for the Jewish people. And I just don't, you know, I live peacefully with this, but what I'm asking you, the diaspora, is this is the Israel that we wanted to have. And I still believe that joining forces between the Canadian Jewish community and Jewish community from other places might bring, some pressure to Israel to change its policy toward peace and occupation. And I think that we need, as I said, that we need also to cooperate with Palestinian diaspora, not only in Canada, but also in the UK, in Europe, in the United States, and to build a coalition of people that they are demanding a change from both sides, and not only from the Israeli side, because also on the Palestinian side, they stop believing in peace, and we need just to bring new voices from outside and also from inside. And one of the main things that they learned about how diaspora changing their attitude toward the conflict, when they stopped supporting the extreme group, and when they start to support locally the people who really work hard in order to bring peace and dialogue. And this is something that is very needed now in Israel to increase the support for the different groups. I'm not trying to make this event like a fundraising event, really not. But I will tell you from my own experience after October 7, working with these 40 foundations in Israel. And they decided that they're going to support, before knowing the other organization. I know that you know how to do the work, go and do it. And they report to me. And this was very important, the fact that they were there the moment that we needed them. We could do the work because of their support. And they became partners and not only supporters. And this is a very important thing. And I think third thing, that's something that I learned, because I'm very, very involved, with the Jewish community in the UK and also in the USA. And I'm not familiar with what's happening here in Canada. But I know that the Jewish community supports Israel, but they are not doing some work in the ground here. In their local, also in their local communities. They do some work with Jewish community, but not with other communities. And some people ask me, how can we just start a dialogue with, the Palestinian diaspora, Palestinian people here, the local Palestinians, and also Arabs from other states. And I think this is something that we should start to do it, to have the courage to do it. They are not the enemy, they have the same interest. Maybe they don't believe that they can do it, but if we do, just like take the money that we get in Israel.
Thank you. I think you'll hear from some of our audience members that there are, in fact, some initiatives here in Canada doing exactly what you're saying. We've got time for maybe 2 or 3 questions from the audience. So, yeah. It may not be entirely fair, but...
Well, first is a statement that just came out that Israelis are considered number 10, the happiest people in the world. Would you consider the Palestinians to be part of that 10%, or not 10%, number 10?
Number 10 in the world.
The 10 in the world, happy in terms of your present situation, regardless of what you just said, which, might contradict that, and I don't know who they took the survey from. And the number 2 question is, are Israelis or Palestinians within Israel supporting your organization financially?
Actually, financially, we are not supported by Palestinians organization inside Israel. Most of our fundraising is from the Jewish community in the diaspora. And actually, we had this conversation with our boards And when our board member in our last meeting, he asked, do you get support from Palestinian organization? I said, no, we don't. And I explained why we don't. Because, in our society, there are so many foundations, but they mainly support humanitarian aid and not share society organizations. And I started explaining. And then one of our board members, he was one of the most involved board members, and he's like a huge donor. And he said, guys, share society is a Jewish issue. It's a Jewish concern. We would like to see Israel as a better place, so that's why we're more invested in shared society than the Arabs. But it's a good challenge. It's a great challenge for us to get support from different kinds of researchers. For being the happiest, one of the things I didn't hear about this. I have to tell you that a few years ago I went to Japan, and they told me that Tokyo is the most expensive, city in the world. When I came to Japan, it was like half price of what, even less than third price of what I pay in Israel. When it comes, we used to go to a fancy restaurant and pay 300 shekels when you pay 1,200 shekels in Israel for a family for a fancy restaurant. So I said, oh, Israel is more expensive than Tokyo, and it's more expensive than Rome, and more expensive than Paris, and more expensive than even New York, that is very, very expensive now. So I don't know, maybe people like the weather, the beach, the environment,
and the possibility for political cooperation at a formal level between the Jewish and Palestinian citizens. And what horizon do you see for that? Do you see it playing out within the current landscape of parties? Do you see the possibility of new parties? We've seen the success that you and others have had at the municipal level. What does this kind of purple movement look like going up to a national level, potentially in a political sphere?
The what? The purple movement?
In a political, yes.
Okay, so first of all, I'll start from the beginning, because the no horizon and chance for political cooperation. We have to. There is no choice. I think that, as Gabby said, I met Yehudan a few months ago, and he said, no way, I'm not gonna have party with the Arabs. Now Gabby informed us that they decided that they will cooperate with the Arab parties. They started to understand. Yehudan, Lapid, and also Gantz, they really, and also Bennett. Bennett is not running yet, but I think he will run. They understand that the only way to create a coalition and to replace Netanyahu's government is by cooperation with the Arab parties. So for me, it's like a very, it's that. Yeah, they will do it, and they have to do it. This is the only way. But it's also for a new party. I know that maybe standing together are thinking to form a party, and maybe I think you don't know. Okay, we have an internal discussion. Okay, I met Uri last week, and he just asked me if this is Uri, one of the leaders of the standing together. They are thinking to be the Jewish Arab Party in Israel. I believe that standing together as a social movement, as a very active movement, they should translate their power to political power. They have great place and space in the Israeli political arena, because we don't have today, with having Meretz joining to the labor market, so the radical left, we don't have radical left Jewish Arab party. So I believe that maybe we need a new party. But today, as I will tell you about the Arab society parties, because I'm very involved also on this, that they are building again the joint list. I don't know if you're familiar with the joint list. The joint list is when all the Arab parties, they're going together to these elections. And they did it in 2015, and they got for the first time 15 Knesset members. And when the Arab parties joined,
the number of voters from the Arab society increased. They go and vote because they have a hope. So in order to translate the activism, the social activism, to political power, we need to create like a sense of influence. If you're joined, you will do that and that and that. You will succeed to do that. And the situation now in Israel, and this is what Netanyahu created, that nevertheless what you do, you will never succeed to do anything. But now people are joining, parties are joining and cooperating in order to change the situation. And I think that next election we will have different results.
I think we've got time for one more question. Anybody?
Very much. You spoke earlier about empathy, and I'm just wondering what strategies to build empathy. It seems to me that education is absolutely a cornerstone. What success historically have you had with introducing more in curriculum on both Arab Israelis and Jewish Israelis, language, culture, to build empathy? And I guess I also have another question, but we'll leave it there. My other question actually really is, you said that you're funded by Jewish groups, but I'm wondering if there's anything in the area like to be funded for moderating influences on both sides by Arab countries that would sort of be funding partners, to fund your kind of organization, but not come from Jewish money, right? So that's
Maybe we should have the next question and then just start.
Oh, okay, sure.
Maybe we
Is
can
there
have
another
other
one?
question
Yeah.
and then I will answer.
One more. We'll get the last question.
She wanted.
Sorry.
Hi. So I'm beginning to build knowledge about different organizations in Israel that are involved in shared society. And particularly in this moment where it's so difficult to continue that work and to have empathy for both sides. And then we see the mess in the university campuses, and it just occurs to me that critical thinking has been abandoned, the ability to hold multiple truths has been abandoned. This work that's being done in Israel, is there some way that it can be brought to universities? So we've got questions about education here in general.
So I will start with the question about
building empathy.
as I said, we are in other organizations on the ground, we are facing a huge challenge. Our huge challenge is how to educate again for respect for the other, for tolerance, to be more tolerant towards the other. So in my organization, we are leading an educational program, a very wide educational program. And we work with high schools, mid-high schools and mid-high school students. We used to work with students before the war to educate for not to be racist, how to accept the other. We used to bring Arab lecturers to Jewish schools, and we bring Jewish lecturers to Arab schools to educate about the other and the other community. And we have this game, excuse me for asking. We encourage the students to ask the tough questions for the other, So, you support Hamas, are you terrorists, something like that. This is what we did before the war. And after the war, most of the schools that just didn't allow us to continue working with the students. And then we just decided that we were going to switch and adjust our program. Because both sides, we work in the Arab schools and a Jewish school, both of them decided that this is not the right time, that their students are not ready for us to speak with them. So we decided to switch and to start to work with the teachers. So now we are working with more than 30 schools, and we will work with more to teach them how to speak about the situation with their students. We have a package of intervention ways to speak with the
with the students. And we also educate the workplaces how to continue working together. It's an education program, really. We continue to do it here and there. And we are not the only organization that are involved, with Breakout involved, and Shahira and Kazim. We are very interested in this. We need more. We need to do more. But in our program, what is very unique that we wanted the Ministry of Education to adapt this methodology as like a part of the educational system in Israel. Because we are as an organization, we cannot work with 4,000 schools. We would like each teacher to, as part of their education in the university, to know how to teach about your society, about the other, and this is the main purpose of other programs. So for your question, about getting support, who asked for getting support from the Arab countries? Actually, we are not in Israel. We are not allowed to get support from Arab countries. It's very, it's very suspicious. If my organization, I know that in my organization was offered to get support from one of the Gulf countries, and they decided no, they're not, because we live in Israel, under the Israeli law, and we want to be on the safe side. So I'm so sorry for saying that, so we don't want to be suspicious by supporting terror or something. And for your question, I think that in our organization and other organizations, we really need dialogue groups and campuses. And not only with the students, we also work with the staff members, academic staff members, how to deal with the situation that's happening in the universities. So it's again education.
Okay, so the other groups are going to now descend on us, so I think it's time to.
Thank you very much.
Very inspiring for all of us. Thank you so much.